My name is Sophia, and at 26 years old, I never expected my own mother to treat me like a financial resource. For 4 years, I paid rent consistently to live in my parents' rental property. I worked diligently, advanced my career, and never requested assistance. Then my unemployed brother Marcus, his wife, and their 2 children moved in with me. Suddenly, Mom demanded I pay double rent for accommodating her favored child. Little did she know I had my own plan waiting. If you are watching this now, please hit that like button and subscribe to my channel. Let me know in the comments where you are watching from. Trust me, you will want to stick around to see how I change the situation with my family of dependents. I have always been the dependable one in my family. When other students were socializing through college, I was working part-time jobs while maintaining a 3.9 GPA. I graduated with minimal student loans because I applied for every scholarship possible and worked throughout my entire education. After college, I landed an entry-level position at an advertising firm and worked my way up to coordinator over 3 years through consistent dedication and taking on projects nobody else wanted. My relationship with my parents was always decent, if a bit emotionally reserved. They were pleased with my accomplishments, but never quite as expressive about it as they were with Marcus. Still, we had a practical arrangement that functioned well for both of us. 4 years ago, when I was 22 and just starting my career, they offered to rent me the 2-bedroom apartment in their rental property at slightly below market rate. The place needed work, so I agreed to handle minor repairs and updates myself in exchange for the discount. I painted every room, replaced the outdated kitchen hardware, and even installed new light fixtures throughout the apartment. What started as a bland, colorless space became a warm, inviting home that I was proud of. I treated that apartment with respect, knowing it was not only my home but also my parents' investment. Every month, without fail, my rent payment was in their account on the 1st. If I ever needed a repair that was beyond my skills, I paid for the materials myself and only asked them to cover the labor. I was the model tenant, and they often told me how much they appreciated not having to worry about their property with me living there. Meanwhile, my older brother Marcus, who was 30, had a very different approach to life. Since high school, he had been the family challenge generator. He never finished college, moving between 3 different universities before dropping out entirely. His employment history was inconsistent with jobs he kept for a few months at most, before leaving because the supervisor was difficult, the hours were too demanding, or the work was beneath him. Marcus had a pattern of finding women who would support him financially until they realized he had no intention of contributing equally to the relationship. His current wife, Lisa, had been with him for 7 years, though I never understood why she stayed. She worked occasionally as a substitute teacher, but stopped once they had their first child, Daniel, who was now 6. Their daughter, Olivia, came along 3 years later, and Lisa never returned to work. The pattern with Marcus was always the same. He would call our parents with some financial emergency. The car broke down. The landlord raised the rent unexpectedly. Daniel needed expensive sports equipment for a team Marcus insisted he join. Our parents, especially Mom, always came through with money that was never repaid. Dad occasionally questioned it, but he never put his foot down. I had tried to establish boundaries with my family years ago. When Marcus asked me for a $900 loan 3 years ago, I refused. He did not speak to me for 2 months afterward, and Mom subtly made me feel responsible about it until he needed her for his next crisis and forgot about being upset with me. Despite the family dynamics, I was making progress on my own goals. I had been promoted twice at work and was now making a comfortable salary. I had a 5-year plan to save for a down payment on my own home, and I was already halfway to my target amount. My career was flourishing, and I had recently been put in charge of a major advertising campaign for a new client. The first sign of trouble came during a Sunday dinner at my parents' house 3 months ago. Mom mentioned casually that Marcus was having trouble with his landlord again. "That man is so demanding," she said, serving potatoes. "He expects the rent on the 1st of every month. No flexibility." I nearly choked on my water. "Mom, that is what landlords do. That is what you and Dad do with me." "That is different, honey," Mom said, touching my hand. "We know you are reliable. Marcus has the children to think about, and Lisa has been looking for work." Dad cleared his throat. 6 months of looking seems excessive. Mom shot him a look that immediately silenced him. I recognized the warning signs, but hoped I was wrong about where this was heading. "Anyway," Mom continued, "they might need a place to stay for a little while, just until they get back on their feet." I focused on cutting my roast beef into precise pieces. "That is unfortunate. Have they looked into affordable housing programs?" "We thought they could stay with you," Mom said as if I had not spoken. You have that second bedroom you use as an office. It would just be temporary. The word temporary coming from my mother regarding Marcus had lost all meaning over the years. Temporary loans became gifts. Temporary help became permanent support. Mom, I work from home 3 days a week. I need my office space. You could set up a desk in your bedroom, she suggested as if it were the most reasonable solution in the world. Family has to help family, Sophia. I looked to Dad for support, but he was suddenly very interested in his green beans. I knew that expression. He disagreed with Mom, but would not contradict her. Besides, Mom added, the children need stability. Think of your niece and nephew. And there it was, the ultimate pressure in my mother's approach. If family obligation did not work, bring in the children. I felt the familiar guilt pressing down on me, even as the rational part of my brain screamed that this was a problematic idea. I will think about it, I said finally, knowing that in my family that was as good as saying yes. That night, I called my best friend Emma and explained the situation. They cannot be serious, she said. Your apartment is what, 700 square feet? Where would 4 extra people even sleep? The second bedroom could fit the kids on a bunk bed, I said, already problem-solving despite myself. Marcus and Lisa could use a sleeper sofa in the living room. I guess. Sophia, Emma said firmly. This is a recipe for disaster. You have worked too hard to get where you are. Do not let them derail you. But I knew I would say yes. I always did when it came to family. The following weekend, I helped Marcus, Lisa, and the kids move their essential belongings into my apartment. The definition of essential apparently included Marcus's massive gaming setup, Lisa's extensive shoe collection, and enough toys to stock a small daycare center. We really appreciate this, sis, Marcus said as he directed me on where to put his third box of video games. It will just be for a month or 2 at most. Right, I said, already feeling claustrophobic as my once spacious living room shrank with each box they brought in. We should establish some ground rules, though. Lisa rolled her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking, but I pressed on. I created a chore chart, designated shelves in the refrigerator and pantry for each of us, and set quiet hours for when I needed to work or sleep. I even drew up a simple agreement stating they would contribute $200 monthly toward utilities and groceries. Marcus signed it readily. No problem, sis. We will be the best roommates ever. You will not even know we are here. As I would soon discover, that promise, like so many others from my brother, was completely empty. The family dinner where my parents dropped the announcement about Marcus needing a place to stay had been uncomfortable. But nothing prepared me for the reality of having 4 additional people in my carefully organized space. I had agreed to a temporary arrangement, emphasis on temporary, with specific conditions that I thought were more than reasonable. It will just be for a month or 2, Dad had assured me when they helped move the first load of Marcus's family's belongings. Just until they find another place. Mom had nodded in agreement. And of course they will contribute to the household, she added, though I noticed she carefully avoided specifying how or how much. Marcus himself had made grand promises. I have got a couple of really promising job leads, he told me, hauling in a massive flat-screen television that dwarfed my modest 32-inch model. One of them is practically certain, just waiting on the paperwork. Lisa had been less committed in her own assurances. I can watch the apartment while you are at the office, she said, as if her presence was somehow a favor to me rather than the other way around. Despite my misgivings, I had truly tried to make it work. I cleared out my second bedroom, cramming my desk and work equipment into an awkward corner of my bedroom. I bought extra towels, made space in my closets, and even picked up extra groceries before they arrived. I was determined to be the bigger person and help my family through this rough patch. The night after they moved in, I called Emma to talk. They brought 3 carloads of stuff, and Marcus says there is more in storage. I told her, whispering from inside my bedroom closet so I would not be overheard. Where am I supposed to put all of this? This is exactly what I was worried about, Emma replied. They are taking advantage of your good nature again. It is just temporary, I said, not entirely convinced myself. And their family. Your family has an unusual definition of family support, Emma pointed out. It seems to only flow in one direction. I knew she was right, but I was not ready to admit it yet. I have made it clear that this arrangement has an expiration date, 2 months maximum. Emma's silence spoke volumes. The first week of cohabitation was awkward, but manageable. We navigated around each other in the small kitchen, exchanged pleasantries about our days, and generally tried to maintain the illusion that this was a normal living situation. The kids were well behaved initially, clearly sensing the tension and uncertain of their place in this new environment. But as the days passed, Marcus and his family became increasingly comfortable. Too comfortable. What had started as a few bags and essential items multiplied until my storage closets were overflowing with their belongings. Boxes lined one wall of my living room, labeled with permanent marker in Lisa's looping handwriting, winter clothes, kitchen stuff, Marcus's collections. The house rules I had so carefully established began to crumble almost immediately. The first casualty was the quiet hours policy. I had explained that I needed silence from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. on my work-from-home days, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. By the second Wednesday, that rule had been completely forgotten. "Aunt Sophia, watch this," Daniel shouted, jumping from the couch to the love seat while I was on a video call with my entire marketing team. I hastily muted myself and closed my bedroom door, but the damage was done. My boss, Jennifer, had raised an eyebrow at the commotion. "Family staying with you?" she asked when I rejoined the call. Temporarily, I confirmed, my cheeks burning with embarrassment. "Sorry about that." The designated food shelves were the next boundary to fall. I came home one evening to find my carefully prepped meal plan ingredients for the week completely gone. In their place was a hastily scrawled note. "Needed to make dinner. We will replace soon." The replacements never appeared. The first real confrontation came when I discovered Olivia had gotten into my makeup collection and used my expensive foundation and eyeshadow palettes as finger paint on the bathroom walls. "Kids will be kids," Lisa said with a shrug when I showed her the damage. "She is only 4. She does not know any better." "That palette cost $80, I said, trying to keep my voice level. "And I have told both children repeatedly that my bedroom and bathroom are off limits." "Well, maybe you should not leave tempting things out where little hands can reach them," she replied, as if I had been negligent rather than having my private space invaded. Marcus was no help. When I approached him about the incident, he was sprawled on my couch, controller in hand, engrossed in his latest video game. "Lisa handles the discipline stuff," he said without looking away from the screen. "But hey, if it means that much to you, I can pick up some makeup next time I am out." That is not the point I tried to explain. It is about respecting boundaries and teaching the children to do the same. He paused the game and gave me an exasperated look. "They are just kids. Lighten up a little." It is not like we are staying forever. But as days turned into weeks with no sign of Marcus's promised job materializing or any apartment hunting taking place, I began to wonder if that was actually true, and I was not the only one noticing. "Have Marcus and Lisa mentioned when they might be moving out?" Dad asked during our weekly phone call, his voice carefully neutral. "No," I admitted. "And I am starting to think they do not have a plan." Dad sighed. "Your mother thinks they just need more time." More time for what I asked, unable to keep the frustration from my voice. "Marcus is not even looking for work as far as I can tell. He plays video games all day. He says he is applying for jobs online," Dad said, though he did not sound convinced himself. "Well, something needs to change," I told him. "This arrangement is not working. Just hang in there a little longer," Dad requested. "For your mother's sake, you know how she worries about them." And so I did, though my patience was wearing thinner by the day. The temporary arrangement was starting to feel alarmingly permanent, and my once peaceful home had been transformed into a chaotic, overcrowded space that no longer felt like mine. Little did I know that things were about to get much worse. Life with unwanted roommates quickly became unbearable. Every aspect of my carefully ordered existence was disrupted by Marcus, Lisa, and their children. My mornings, once peaceful rituals of coffee and planning my day, became chaotic races to use the bathroom before someone else claimed it for an hour. My evenings, formerly quiet retreats from the busy workday, were now filled with children's cartoons blaring at top volume and Marcus's frustrated shouts at his video games. The food situation reached crisis levels by the third week. Despite our agreement about designated shelves, I would open the refrigerator to find my meal prep containers empty, with telltale signs of Marcus's midnight snacking habits. The organic produce I splurged on disappeared without acknowledgement, only to be replaced occasionally with the cheapest possible alternatives. "I bought groceries," Marcus announced proudly one day, dropping 2 small bags on the counter. Inside, I found white bread instead of my usual whole grain, the cheapest lunch meat available, and a 6-pack of Marcus's favorite beer. "This is not equivalent to what you have been eating," I pointed out. He shrugged. "Food is food. What is the big deal?" The big deal became apparent when I reviewed my credit card statement at the end of the month. My grocery bill had doubled, while the promised contribution from Marcus and Lisa remained theoretical. When I asked about the $200 they had agreed to provide for utilities and food, Marcus always had an excuse. "We are still waiting for my last paycheck from the warehouse," he said the first time. Lisa had to buy new shoes for the kids was the excuse the following week. "We will definitely get it to you next Friday," he promised after that, a Friday that never seemed to arrive. Meanwhile, the utility bills increased significantly with 4 additional people using water, electricity, and heat. My carefully budgeted monthly expenses were completely disrupted. The hot water tank sufficient for one person's needs could not keep up with 5 people. I found myself taking cold showers more often than not, as Marcus's family seemed to use up the hot water without consideration for anyone else. My internet, which I needed for work, slowed significantly during important video conferences because Marcus was streaming games or movies on multiple devices simultaneously. When I asked him to limit usage during my working hours, he acted as if I was being unreasonable. "I need it for job searching," he claimed. Though the search history I glimpsed when helping Olivia with an educational video showed hours of gaming sites and sports highlights, working from home became nearly impossible. Despite repeated requests for quiet during business hours, the apartment was constantly filled with noise. Daniel chased Olivia through the living room, their excited shrieks piercing through my closed bedroom door during client calls. Lisa talked loudly on her phone, gossiping with friends or discussing with customer service representatives about bills she had not paid. "I apologize about the background noise" became my standard opening for every work call. My boss Jennifer was understanding at first, but her patience visibly wore thin as weeks passed with no improvement. "Sophia, is your home situation affecting your ability to meet deadlines?" she asked after I submitted a project late for the first time in my career. "No," I said, fighting back tears of frustration. "It will not happen again." Privacy became a distant memory. I would return from a rare evening out to find Lisa wearing my clothes, which she returned stretched out or stained. My bathroom products disappeared or were returned nearly empty. Once I discovered Daniel using my expensive work laptop to watch videos, sticky fingers leaving marks on the keyboard. "He was bored and your computer was just sitting there," Lisa explained when I objected as if my work tools were communal property. The situation reached a critical point when I discovered my grandmother's antique silver jewelry box had been moved from my dresser, its contents rearranged. When confronted, Lisa admitted Olivia had been playing dress-up with my heirloom pieces, one of which was now missing. "Kids misplace things," she said dismissively. "It will turn up." It never did. After a month of this chaos, I attempted to discuss the situation with my parents, hoping they might see reason and help find another solution for Marcus's family. "Mom, this is not working," I explained during a private lunch. "My apartment is too small for 5 people. Marcus and Lisa are not contributing financially. The children have no boundaries." Rather than sympathy, I was met with disappointment. "They are going through a difficult time," Mom said, her voice taking on the pained tone I knew too well. "Marcus is really struggling to find work in this economy." "He is not looking," I countered. "He plays video games all day while Lisa watches talk shows." "That is not fair," Mom said sharply. "Marcus has always had trouble finding his path. Not everyone can be as naturally organized as you are." The implication stung. My success was not natural. It was the result of hard work and sacrifice, neither of which Marcus seemed capable of. "Besides," Mom continued, "where would they go? You would not want your niece and nephew without stable housing, would you?" And there it was again, the ultimate pressure. The suggestion that enforcing reasonable boundaries somehow made me a monster who wanted to see children struggle. "There are other options," I insisted. "They could apply for housing assistance, or maybe they could stay with you and Dad for a while." Mom looked troubled at the suggestion. "We do not have the space, and at our age we could not handle 2 active children running around." The irony that she expected me to handle it while building my career was apparently lost on her. Dad was slightly more sympathetic when I called him later, but no more helpful. "I understand it is difficult," he said, "but your mother is determined to help them through this rough patch. You know how she gets when her mind is made up. So I am just supposed to put my life on hold indefinitely?" I asked. "It will not be indefinitely," he assured me, though he offered no timeline or plan. As the situation at home deteriorated, my work performance suffered. The campaign I was leading fell behind schedule. Errors crept into my presentations. Dark circles under my eyes became a permanent feature as sleep became difficult in my own home. Jennifer called me into her office after I dozed off during a department meeting. "What is going on with you?" she asked, concern evident in her voice. "This is not like you at all. I broke down and told her everything. The impossible living situation, my parents' enabling behavior, the financial strain. You need to address this, she said, not unkindly. Not just for your career, but for your well-being. Sometimes family takes advantage precisely because they know you will not say no. She was right, of course, but I still did not see a way out that would not cause a family crisis. Little did I know my mother was about to create one herself. 6 weeks into the temporary living arrangement, my mother decided to make an unannounced visit to check on things. I came home from work to find her sitting on my couch, Lisa beside her, both drinking tea from my special occasion mugs. "Sophia, there you are," Mom said as if she had been waiting for hours, though I was actually 20 minutes early returning from the office. "I thought we should talk about how things are going." My heart sank. These talks never went in my favor. "Let me change first," I said, heading toward my bedroom. I nearly tripped over Daniel's toys scattered across the hallway and had to squeeze past 3 boxes of Marcus's memorabilia that had somehow migrated from the living room to outside my door. When I entered my bedroom, I found Olivia napping on my bed, sticky residue from whatever she had been eating visible on my pillowcase. Taking a deep breath, I changed quickly and returned to the living room where my mother was surveying the apartment with a critical eye. "The place is a bit messy," she commented. I bit back a response. The understatement was almost laughable. My once immaculate apartment looked like it had been hit by a storm. Dishes filled the sink despite my repeated requests that everyone clean up after themselves. Laundry spilled out of hampers. Toys, shoes, and random belongings covered every surface. "It is difficult to keep things tidy with 5 people in a space designed for 1 or 2, I said carefully. "That is actually what I wanted to discuss," Mom said, setting down her tea. "This arrangement clearly is not ideal for anyone." For a moment, hope flared in my chest. Had she finally recognized the impossibility of the situation? "Marcus and Lisa need more space for the children," she continued, immediately dashing my hopes. "They cannot keep living with all their belongings in boxes." "I agree," I said cautiously. "They should find their own place as soon as possible." Mom waved her hand dismissively. "That is not realistic right now. Marcus is still looking for work and rents are so high." "Then what do you suggest?" I asked, though I was afraid I already knew the answer. "Well," she said, leaning forward, "your father and I have been talking. We think it would make sense for you to take the smaller bedroom and let Marcus and Lisa have the master. That way, the children could have the second bedroom instead of sleeping in the living room." I stared at her in disbelief. "You want me to give up my bedroom in my own apartment?" "It would just be until they get back on their feet," Mom said, using the phrase that had lost all meaning. "And since there are more people living here now, we thought it would be fair if you paid a bit more rent." "More rent?" I repeated, sure I had misheard. "Just double what you are paying now," she said casually, as if suggesting I buy a slightly more expensive coffee. "After all, you are the only one with a steady income, and there are 5 people using the space and utilities." The room seemed to tilt around me. I looked at Lisa, who was studying her nails as if this conversation had nothing to do with her. Then back at my mother, whose expression held the serene certainty of someone who expected to be obeyed without question. "Let me get this straight," I said, fighting to keep my voice level. "You want me to give up my bedroom, continue doing all the cleaning since no one else bothers, pay for all the groceries that everyone eats, and now pay double rent on top of that for the experience of living in my own apartment with people who do not respect my space or belongings?" Mom's expression hardened. "I think you are being selfish, Sophia. This is about family helping family. Marcus would do the same for you if the situations were reversed." The laugh that escaped me held no humor. "No, he would not. Marcus has never helped anyone but himself. And you have enabled him every step of the way." "That is not fair," Mom protested. "Fair. You want to talk about fair?" My voice rose despite my efforts to stay calm. "I have worked hard for everything I have. I pay my bills. I take responsibility for my life. Marcus is 30 years old and has never held a job for more than 6 months. He has not made a single effort to find work or another place to live since moving in here. And now you expect me to subsidize his lifestyle even more than I already am. You have always been so critical of your brother," Mom said, her voice taking on the wounded tone that had worked on me countless times before. "He just needs a little more support than you do." "A little more support?" I echoed incredulously. I have been supporting him, his wife, and their children for weeks, and not one word of thanks from any of them. Not $1 of contribution to expenses. Nothing but entitlement and disrespect. At that moment, Marcus walked in, a six-pack of beer under his arm. He took in the scene, my flushed face, Mom's tight expression, Lisa's studied indifference. "What is going on?" he asked, dropping onto the couch and opening a beer without offering one to anyone else. "Mom thinks I should pay double rent for accommodating you living here," I said directly. "What do you think about that?" Marcus shrugged. "Seems fair. There are more people living here now. And what exactly are you contributing to this arrangement?" I demanded. "Hey, we are family," he said as if that explained everything. "We help each other out. When I get back on my feet, I will return the favor." "When has that ever happened?" I asked. "When have you ever repaid a single thing that has been given to you?" "You are being dramatic," Marcus said, taking a long swallow of beer. "It is not a big deal. If you cannot handle having us here, just say so." "I cannot handle having you here," I said flatly. The silence that followed was deafening. "You do not mean that," Mom finally said. "You are just tired and stressed from work." "No, I mean it. This situation is impossible and I am done enabling it." Mom stood up, her expression a mixture of disappointment and anger. "I expected better from you, Sophia. Family is supposed to stand by each other." "This is not standing by each other," I countered. "This is one person carrying everyone else while they take advantage." "If that is how you feel," Mom said coldly, "then your father and I will have to reconsider our arrangement with you." "What does that mean?" I asked, though I already knew. "It means that if you are not willing to help your brother in his time of need, perhaps we need to find a tenant who will be more cooperative." The threat hung in the air, explicit and unavoidable. "Submit to their demands or lose my home entirely." "I see," I said, a strange calm settling over me. "I will think about it." Mom seemed satisfied with this apparent capitulation. "Good. Your father and I expect your decision by the end of the week, and the increased rent starting next month." After she left, Marcus returned to his video game as if nothing had happened. Lisa disappeared into the kitchen, leaving me standing alone in what no longer felt like my own living room. That night, I lay awake in bed, tears of frustration and betrayal soaking my pillow. The family I had always tried so hard to please had made their priorities crystal clear. I was not a daughter to be loved and respected, but a resource to be exploited. As dawn broke, I reached for my phone and texted Emma. "You were right. I need help." Her response came immediately. "What is the plan?" For the first time in weeks, I smiled. I was done being the responsible one who got taken advantage of. It was time to put myself first. The morning after my mother's outrageous demand, I woke up with a clarity I had not felt in weeks. If my family saw me as nothing more than a source of housing and income for my brother, then I needed to remove myself from the equation entirely. I would find my own place without telling any of them until it was too late to stop me. First, I needed to assess my finances. I had been saving for a down payment on a house someday, but those plans would have to wait. Instead, I would use part of those savings to secure a new apartment, something affordable enough that I could continue saving even if at a slower pace. During my lunch break at work, I created a detailed spreadsheet of my monthly income and expenses, carefully calculating how much I could afford for rent while still maintaining my emergency fund. The numbers were tight but workable, especially considering I would no longer be supporting 4 additional people. "What are you working on so intently?" Jennifer asked, pausing by my desk. "Just planning my escape," I said with a small smile. Her eyebrows raised. "From the family invasion. Good for you. I need to find a new place fast and move out without them knowing," I explained. "Otherwise, they will try to make me feel responsible for staying, or follow me to the new place." "Take tomorrow off," Jennifer offered unexpectedly. "Use the day to apartment hunt. You have earned some personal time, and honestly, I need you functioning at full capacity again." I gratefully accepted her offer. That night, I went home and acted as if nothing had changed, smiling blandly at Marcus's jokes and helping the kids with their bedtime routine, while secretly researching apartments on my phone whenever I had a private moment. The next day, I visited 6 different properties across the city. The first 2 were disappointing, dark, cramped spaces that would have been a significant downgrade from my current apartment. The third was in a neighborhood that would have doubled my commute time. The fourth was nice, but well above my budget. The fifth possibility, a 1-bedroom apartment in a small building owned by an elderly couple, seemed promising until I learned they had a strict no overnight guest policy that would make it difficult to have friends visit. It was the 6th and final apartment of the day that gave me hope. The building was owned by Mr. Anderson, a kind elderly man who lived on the 1st floor and rented out the 3 units above. The available apartment was on the 2nd floor, A cozy one-bedroom with hardwood floors, large windows that filled the space with natural light, and a small balcony overlooking a quiet street. "My wife and I bought this building 40 years ago," Mr. Anderson explained as he showed me around. "We have always believed in being fair landlords. No surprise rent increases, prompt repairs, and respect for our tenants' privacy." The rent was slightly higher than I had hoped to pay, but still within my revised budget. And something about Mr. Anderson's straightforward kindness made me feel safe in a way I desperately needed. "I would need to move in quickly," I said. "Would that be possible?" "How quickly?" he asked. "Within 2 weeks, ideally." He thought for a moment, then nodded. "The apartment will be ready by next weekend. If you want it, it is yours." I signed the lease on the spot, paying the security deposit and first month's rent from my savings. As I handed over the check, I felt a strange mixture of anxiety and exhilaration. I was taking control of my life again. The next challenge was figuring out how to move my belongings without alerting Marcus and his family. I knew they would not make it easy if they realized what I was doing. First, I needed to determine what was truly important to take with me. The furniture in the apartment technically belonged to my parents, so I would leave that behind. My personal belongings, clothes, jewelry, books, electronics, and sentimental items would come with me. Everything else could be replaced over time. I started by secretly packing a few items each day, things that would not be immediately missed. A box of winter clothes from the back of my closet, books from the bottom shelves of my bookcase, kitchen items I rarely used. I stored these boxes in the trunk of my car or took them directly to the new apartment when I knew everyone would be out for a few hours. For larger furniture items I would need, I searched secondhand shops and online marketplaces, finding affordable pieces I could have delivered directly to the new apartment. A comfortable but inexpensive sofa, a simple bed frame and mattress, a small dining table with 2 chairs. None of it matched my carefully curated aesthetic from before, but it would serve until I could upgrade gradually. I also took steps to protect myself financially. I opened a new bank account at a different bank than the one my parents used, ensuring they would have no way to access my funds. I changed all my passwords and set up mail forwarding to my new address. I made sure my important documents, birth certificate, social security card, passport were secured in my desk at work rather than at the apartment where they might be discovered missing. The most difficult part was maintaining the appearance at home. I had to pretend everything was normal, that I was still considering my mother's demand for double rent while secretly dismantling my life there piece by piece. "Have you thought about what your mother suggested?" Dad asked during our weekly phone call. "I am still considering my options," I said carefully. "Your mother thinks you are being stubborn," he said with a sigh. "But between you and me, I think she is asking too much." "Just do not tell her I said that." His words confirmed what I already knew. Dad disagreed with Mom, but would not stand up to her, not even for my sake. "I will figure something out," I assured him. And I had, just not in the way any of them expected. As the move-out date approached, I enlisted Emma's help for the final phase. She arrived early on a Saturday morning when Marcus and his family were visiting my parents. "I cannot believe you are really doing this," she said as she helped me pack the last of my belongings. "I am proud of you, but also a little shocked." "I did not think I had it in me either," I admitted as I carefully wrapped my grandmother's remaining jewelry in tissue paper. But they left me no choice. We worked quickly, loading everything into Emma's SUV and my sedan. By noon, all traces of my personal life had been removed from the apartment. All that remained were the furniture, basic kitchen supplies, and household items I was leaving behind. Before leaving, I took one last look around the place that had been my home for 4 years. Despite the current chaos, I had loved this apartment and made it my own. Now it would be Marcus's problem and by extension, my parents'. On the kitchen counter, I left an envelope containing my keys and a short note. "I found my own place. Good luck." That night, in my new apartment, surrounded by boxes and mismatched furniture, I felt a strange combination of emotions. Grief for the relationship with my family that would never be the same. Anxiety about their reaction when they discovered what I had done, but overwhelmingly relief. For the first time in months, I was sleeping in a space that was truly mine with no one to answer to but myself. I texted Emma before going to bed. "Mission accomplished. Freedom feels strange but good." Her response made me smile. "Welcome to the first day of your new life. You deserve this." As I drifted off to sleep, I wondered how long it would take my family to notice I was gone and what chaos would ensue when they did. But for once, I did not feel responsible for managing that chaos. It was not my problem anymore. The first call came at 9:15 the next morning. I watched my mother's name flash on my phone screen, took a deep breath, and let it go to voicemail. I was not ready for that conversation yet. I needed to finish setting up my new apartment, to create a sanctuary before facing the storm. By noon, I had 5 missed calls from Mom, 3 from Dad, and a series of increasingly confused texts from Marcus. "Where are you? Did you stay at a friend's? Mom and Dad are here and concerned. Seriously, Sophia, what is going on?" I silenced my phone and continued unpacking, organizing my kitchen with the few utensils and dishes I had brought with me. Mr. Anderson had stopped by earlier with a welcome basket containing bread, honey, and a small potted plant. His simple kindness had brought tears to my eyes. Around 3 p.m., I decided I was as settled as I could be for one day. I sat on my new sofa, took a deep breath, and called my mother back. "Sophia, where are you?" she demanded without preamble. "We have been worried sick." "I have moved out," I said calmly. "I found my own place." There was a moment of stunned silence. "What do you mean you have moved out?" "That is not possible. All your things are there." "No, Mom. I moved everything important yesterday while Marcus and his family were at your house. I left the furniture since it belongs to you and Dad." But she sputtered, clearly struggling to process this information. "You cannot just leave. What about your brother? What about the children?" "They are not my responsibility," I said firmly. "They are your responsibility since you have decided to enable Marcus's behavior, and Marcus's responsibility since they are his family." "This is completely unacceptable," Mom said, her voice rising. "You had an agreement with us." "An agreement you were trying to change unfairly," I reminded her. "You wanted me to pay double rent to house Marcus and his family. That made no financial or logical sense." "We are coming over right now," she declared. "Where are you?" "No," I said simply. "I am not telling you where I live now. I need some space from all of you. Sophia and Carter. You tell me where you are this instant." The use of my full name, a tactic that had worked when I was 10, but held no power over me as an adult, almost made me laugh despite the tension. "Mom, I am a 26-year-old adult with my own life. I do not have to tell you where I live if I do not want to, and right now, I do not want to." I could hear my father in the background asking what was happening and Marcus's voice joining the confusion. "Your father wants to speak with you," Mom said stiffly. Dad's voice came on the line, sounding tired and concerned. "Sophia, what is going on? Your mother is very upset." "I moved out, Dad. I found my own apartment where I do not have to support Marcus and his family or pay double rent for doing so." He sighed heavily. "I understand you were upset about the rent increase, but this seems extreme." "It was not just the rent increase," I explained. "It was the complete lack of respect for my space, my belongings, and my life. It was the expectation that I would indefinitely support 4 additional people with no end in sight. It was Mom threatening to evict me if I did not comply with her unreasonable demands. She would not have actually evicted you," Dad said, though he did not sound entirely convinced himself. "It does not matter now," I replied. "I have made my decision. I have signed a lease. I am not coming back." "What about Marcus and the kids?" "They are still in the apartment." "That is between you and Marcus. The apartment is your property. What you do with it is your business now." There was a long pause before Dad spoke again. "Your mother wants to come see your new place." "Not yet," I said firmly. "I need some time and space. Maybe in a few weeks if things settle down." "She is not going to like that." "I know, but this is not about what she likes anymore. It is about what I need." After ending the call with my father, I turned my phone off completely and spent the rest of the day making my new apartment feel like home. I hung curtains, arranged my books on shelves, and ordered takeout from a new restaurant in the neighborhood. It was the most peaceful evening I had had in months. The next morning, I turned my phone back on to find it overflowing with notifications. More missed calls from my parents. Frustrated texts from Marcus. Even a tearful voicemail from Lisa claiming the children were asking where I had gone. The most revealing message was from my father. "Your mother went to the apartment. She was quite shocked by the state of it. Marcus says you took things that did not belong to you." I called Dad back immediately. "What is Marcus claiming I took?" "He says you took kitchen appliances that came with the apartment." I laughed in disbelief. "The only kitchen appliances I took were the ones I bought myself. My coffee maker, my blender, and my stand mixer. Everything that came with the apartment is still there." "Well, the place is apparently in quite a state," Dad said. "Your mother is very upset about it." "I am sure she is," I replied. "Marcus and his family have been damaging it for weeks. That is part of why I left." She says it is going to cost hundreds to clean and repair everything. That sounds like a conversation she should be having with Marcus, not me. Dad was quiet for a moment. They do not have anywhere else to go, Sophia. They could go to your house, I suggested, knowing exactly how that would be received. You know that is not possible, he said quickly. We do not have the space, and your mother could not handle the children running around all day. So, it was acceptable to expect me to handle it while trying to build my career, but not acceptable to expect you and Mom to handle it in your retirement. He had no answer for that. Over the next few days, the calls and messages continued, alternating between guilt trips, frustration, and attempts at reconciliation. Mom insisted I was tearing the family apart. Marcus accused me of abandoning my niece and nephew. Dad made half-hearted attempts to mediate, never quite taking a side. A week after I moved out, Marcus called with a different tone. Mom and Dad say I have to start paying rent next month, he said, sounding genuinely shocked. That seems reasonable, I replied. You are living in their property. But I cannot afford rent. I do not have a job. Then maybe it is time to find one, I suggested, or apply for housing assistance or any of the other solutions I mentioned weeks ago that everyone dismissed. This is your fault, he accused. Everything was acceptable until you left. No, Marcus. Everything was acceptable for you because I was paying all the bills and doing all the work. Now you are experiencing the consequences of your own choices. He hung up on me. Emma came over that weekend to see my new place and hear all the family situation. I cannot believe they are still trying to make this your problem, she said as we sat on my small balcony drinking wine. Actually, I can believe it. They have been doing it for years. The difference is I am not accepting it anymore, I said, surprising myself with how confident I felt. For the first time in my life, I am putting myself first, and it feels wonderful. You should have seen your face when you were living with them, Emma said. You looked exhausted and miserable all the time. Now you are glowing. It was true. Despite the ongoing family tension, I felt lighter than I had in years. My work performance improved immediately. I was sleeping through the night again. I was rediscovering hobbies I had abandoned during the chaos. 3 weeks after my escape, Dad called with news. Marcus got a job, he said, sounding genuinely surprised. Nothing fancy, just stocking shelves at the grocery store, but it is something. That is good, I said, meaning it. What about Lisa? She is watching someone's children a few days a week. Your mother is helping them look for an apartment they can afford. I'm glad to hear they are taking steps to support themselves, I said carefully. Your mother misses you, Dad added. We both do. I miss you too, I admitted. But I do not regret my decision. I know, he said softly. For what it is worth, I think you did the right thing. Do not tell your mother I said that. It was not a full apology or acknowledgement of how wrong they had been. But coming from my conflict-avoidant father, it was a small step toward rebuilding our relationship on more equal terms. 1 month after my dramatic exit, I was settling comfortably into my new life. My apartment, though smaller than my previous one, felt like a true sanctuary. I had arranged my belongings exactly as I wanted them, decorated with colors and patterns that reflected my personality, and established routines that prioritized my well-being. Each morning, I woke to peaceful silence, enjoyed my coffee on the small balcony, and prepared for work without interruption or chaos. The situation with my family was evolving in unexpected ways. After the initial shock and frustration, reality had set in for my parents. With me gone, they had no choice but to deal directly with Marcus and his financial irresponsibility. The comfortable buffer I had provided was no longer available. Dad called me on a Sunday afternoon with an update that made me nearly drop my phone in surprise. Marcus is working full-time now, he said, a note of pride in his voice that had been absent for years when discussing my brother. The grocery store promoted him to shift supervisor after just 3 weeks. That is great, I said, genuinely pleased. How is he handling the responsibility? Surprisingly well, shows up on time. Has not missed a day. Even volunteered for some overtime last weekend. Dad paused. Your mother would never admit it, but I think your leaving was the reality check he needed. It turned out that facing actual consequences had forced Marcus to mature in ways that years of enabling had prevented. Without me to absorb the impact of his choices, he had finally had to step up. Lisa, too, had found steady part-time work at a daycare center, which allowed her to bring Olivia with her at a reduced rate. Daniel was doing better in school now that his parents were establishing more structure and routine in his life. Most surprisingly, my parents had helped Marcus and Lisa secure their own apartment, a modest 2-bedroom unit in an affordable housing complex. It was not luxury living, but it was clean, safe, and within their budget now that both were working. Your mother and I co-signed their lease, Dad explained, but we made it clear we will not be paying their rent. This is their responsibility now. The shift in my parents' approach was remarkable, though I suspected it was born more of necessity than choice. Without me as the family safety net, they had been forced to either let Marcus fail or teach him to succeed. They had chosen the latter, much to everyone's benefit. My relationship with my mother remained strained. Her pride made it difficult for her to acknowledge how unfairly she had treated me or how her enabling had harmed Marcus in the long run. But even she was showing small signs of growth. Your mother asked for your new address, Dad mentioned during one of our calls. She wants to send you something. I provided it with some hesitation, curious but cautious. A few days later, a package arrived containing my grandmother's silver locket, the piece of jewelry that had gone missing when Olivia was playing with my things. With it was a brief note in my mother's handwriting. This belongs with you. Lisa found it in Olivia's toy box. It was not quite an apology, but it was a gesture of reconciliation. I called to thank her, our first direct conversation in weeks that did not dissolve into accusations. The children ask about you, she said tentatively. They miss their aunt. I miss them too, I admitted. They are good kids, even if the situation was impossible. We are having a small birthday dinner for Daniel next weekend, she ventured. Nothing fancy, just family. Would you consider coming? I took a deep breath, considering my answer carefully. I would like that, I said finally. But Mom, things have to be different now. I need you to respect my boundaries. There was a long pause before she responded. I am trying to understand that, she said, her voice uncharacteristically humble. Your father has helped me see some things more clearly. The birthday dinner was awkward, but not disastrous. Marcus seemed subdued, less entitled than before. Lisa made a point of thanking me for the gift I brought for Daniel. My parents watched our interactions carefully, as if unsure what the new family dynamic should be. As we ate cake, Daniel looked up at me with frosting on his chin. Aunt Sophia, why did you move away? Did not you like living with us? The adults at the table froze, but I appreciated his directness. I loved spending time with you and Olivia, I said honestly. But adults need their own space sometimes, just like you need your own room to play and sleep in. He considered this seriously, like how Dad gets upset when I touch his work uniform. Exactly like that, I agreed, exchanging a surprised glance with Marcus. The fact that he had a work uniform he cared about was progress in itself. After dinner, Marcus pulled me aside while the others were cleaning up. I never thanked you, he said, looking uncomfortable but determined. For everything you did for us when we stayed with you? You are welcome, I said simply. I was a terrible roommate, he continued, and a worse brother. I took advantage because I knew you would not kick us out. No, I would not have, I agreed. That is why I had to leave instead. He nodded. It was a reality check. When you left and Mom and Dad said we had to start paying rent or find somewhere else, I realized no one was going to fix my life for me. That is a hard lesson, I acknowledged. It is. Well, I should have learned it about 15 years ago. He gave a wry smile. Anyway, I just wanted you to know that I understand now why you left, and I do not blame you. It was not a full accounting for years of entitled behavior, but it was a start, a recognition that things had been unbalanced and unfair. I appreciated the effort. In the months that followed, I continued to build my independent life while cautiously rebuilding relationships with my family on new terms. I had dinner with my parents twice a month, but always returned to my own space afterward. I occasionally took Daniel and Olivia for special outings, but with clear boundaries about time and expectations. At work, my career continued to flourish. The campaign I had struggled with during the family crisis became a major success once I could focus on it properly. Jennifer recognized my contributions with a substantial raise and increased responsibilities. You seem like yourself again, she commented after I presented a new concept to our biggest client. It is good to have you back. Emma remained my strongest supporter and confidant. 6 months after my move, we celebrated with a Freedom Anniversary dinner at my favorite restaurant. To standing up for yourself, she toasted, raising her glass and discovering your own strength in the process. I never thought I could do it, I admitted. Walk away from my family, set boundaries, put myself first. It always seemed selfish. There is a difference between being selfish and practicing self-care, Emma pointed out. You could not keep sacrificing yourself to keep everyone else comfortable. She was right. The most surprising discovery of this journey was not just that I could survive without catering to my family's demands. It was that I could thrive. My career was advancing faster than ever. I was building meaningful friendships and connections. I was even dating again, something that had been impossible in the chaos of my previous living situation. Most importantly, I had learned that saying no to unreasonable demands was not selfish. It was necessary. By refusing to enable Marcus's irresponsibility, I had inadvertently given him the opportunity to grow. By walking away from my parents' manipulation, I had forced them to reconsider their approach to both their children. 1 year after my escape, I achieved another milestone. I had saved enough to resume my original plan of buying my own home. It was a small townhouse rather than the larger property I had once envisioned, but it was mine entirely. No landlord, no family strings attached. At my housewarming gathering, I looked around at the small group I had invited. Emma and her boyfriend, a few close colleagues including Jennifer, my new neighbors, and yes, my family, parents, Marcus, Lisa, and the children. All on my terms, in my space, celebrating my achievement. Dad raised his glass for a toast. To Sophia, who taught us all something about independence and courage, "We are proud of you, sweetheart." Mom nodded in agreement, a gesture that would have seemed impossible a year earlier. Later, as the party wound down, I stepped onto my new patio for a moment alone. The night air was cool and refreshing, filled with possibility. I thought about how far I had come from that desperate night when I realized my family saw me only as a resource to be exploited. The journey had not been easy. There had been tears, confrontations, and moments of doubt. But standing there in the home I had earned through my own efforts, I felt a profound sense of peace. I had discovered my own worth and the strength to protect it. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your family is to stop enabling destructive patterns. Sometimes the most loving thing you can do for yourself is to walk away from situations that harm you, even when they come wrapped in the package of family obligation. Have you ever had to make a difficult choice between your own well-being and family expectations? I would love to hear your stories in the comments below. Remember to like this video if it resonated with you. Subscribe for more stories about setting boundaries and finding your strength, and share with anyone who might need to hear this message today. Thank you for joining me on this journey. And remember, your worth is not determined by how much you sacrifice for others, but by how true you remain to yourself.